And it is Friar Friday, and joining us right now on 97.3 The Fan is the president of baseball operations and general manager for the San Diego Padres, and I hope he takes this as a compliment. AJ Preller, you are a madman. I mean, you're a madman. Good morning to you.
Hey, guys. Good morning.
How you doing? You feeling all right? You get a little sleep last night, finally? How much sleep did you get this week?
Yeah, the last few days, I think, for everybody in baseball is it's fun and challenging. But yeah, it's not too much sleep the last couple nights before the trade deadline for sure.
Now, AJ, I was evacuated. I'm in Kauai right now. I was evacuated for a tsunami, and I feel like that was less stressful than maybe the last 24, 48 hours for you.
No, I mean, it's a combination, I think, with the deadline. Obviously, you've got all different possibilities that we were weighing out, and you never really know if any of these, if the deals are gonna come through. So, it's you get to points where you think you have a chance and can get excited, but you never really want to get too excited because it's hard to make trades. It's hard to line up. So, ultimately, you get done with it. I think our group feels good that we have a team that can win. I think we feel like the pieces fit on the team in general. And I think we're excited about the next couple of months for sure.
Talking to AJ Preller here on Ben & Woods this morning. And AJ, I got to tell you, I don't know if you were monitoring social media or if you had somebody monitoring social media, but they were coming for you yesterday, the first couple hours of the trade deadline, the torches and pitchforks. And I'm telling you, I said it in our open today. The Padre fan went through every range of emotion that they could feel yesterday, ourselves included. Getting rid of your number one prospect to get Mason Miller and JP Sears. We were shocked. And then the Freddy Fermin deal. And then, it all kind of wrapped up together at the end with the guys that you got from the Orioles. I mean, for you to move that many pieces yesterday, how insane was it? Because we will never know. We will never know actually how crazy it was. How close did some of these get to falling through?
Yeah, I mean, again, like we've worked on a lot of different scenarios and programs and plans over the couple of days. So I mean, we I think the good news is because of the system and the talent throughout the organization, I think we're in position to really any conversation we wanted to be in whatever direction. So I think the questions were, we came in looking to get a left field bat, probably improve behind the plate, add to the bench, and then look at some impact on the mound and some depth. And not sure we could fill out all those holes. It was kind of what's the order? How does it all fill together? So I think how it all played out yesterday. There's always a little bit of hey, is this are we gonna be able to do X, Y, and Z when you're trying to do two or three things, and they all kind of are tied together, similar to last year at the trade deadline. We knew we had to make multiple moves. But we went into it, knowing, hey, we have a few different plans. We weren't going to make, like the first move or two unless we felt pretty good that we were very convicted that we had a chance to line up on getting the offense better. So, I think, and our first choice was that Oriole choice. And, ultimately, it came together. There were some stressful moments for sure, just making sure that everything went through, especially, I think you're dealing with medicals, you're dealing with a lot of teams competing for the players, but all part of. I think the big part is like being prepared. I think the hundreds of hours that you go through about the different scenarios. So we were, we knew right even up until the last few minutes of the deadline. We were like, hey, we think this is how it's going to play out. And it kind of played out that way in terms of the order and how things went down.
Well, as you just said, AJ, you have a reputation for being thorough and persistent. And I want to ask you about a report from Ken Rosenthal, and I'm not sure if he got it from A's sources or people inside the Padres. My guess it's probably on the A's side. But according to Ken yesterday, he said you called, a week or so ago about Mason Miller and were given a flat-out no. There was no chance they were trading him. And then you kept calling. And finally, eventually, we come to yesterday and you pull off a deal. What is it like? How does that work where a team just gives you a flat out no and somehow you're able to, talk them into a deal that they weren't interested in a week ago?
Yeah, I mean, and you gotta, again, like I think in a lot of the cases we have you have a feel obviously through knowing teams, what they're trying to do, their personalities. You get a feel of what is going to be there, what isn't, so we're constantly, whiteboarding as a group and talking about different ideas and thoughts, but you got to be realistic. I think with the Oakland scenario, Josh Stein, our assistant GM, he was talking to Oakland for much of the last like week or two, and he just stayed on it. I think they indicated, hey, this is what we were looking for Miller. We probably didn't line up on it, but Josh, just kept going back, having conversation about a few of their players, and at the end would still kind of talk to him about Miller. And then, from my standpoint, I made a call a few days ago, and they the biggest thing is they called us back in terms of, they had interest in a scenario that we had talked about. So I think, it starts with Josh kind of making those calls early and continuing to lay the groundwork, and then, getting the call back from Oakland and ultimately leading to a deal. So.
Well, kudos to you for giving Steiner a little credit there. Ben would have taken all of the credit for himself. I am sure of. AJ Preller joins us this morning, and I think, just as interesting as the pieces that we did get are the pieces that didn't go. And of course, I'm talking about Dylan Cease and Robert Suarez. I mean, two guys at 3:00 San Diego time. I was still looking at my phone, going, "All right, man, is a deal going to trickle in?" What were the conversations with Dylan Cease like after the trade deadline ended, and you were able to tell him, "No, man, you're here at least for the rest of the season"?
I haven't talked to Dylan yet. I mean, I think I talked to Dylan right, day or two before, the day before the deadline, and just told him exactly where we were at. And honestly, I think with Dylan, and the same thing with the bullpen pieces. We got those were incoming calls. And you're always obviously going to take the calls and hear what people have to say at this time of year. Make sure you're not leaving anything out there that can help the team and for now or the future. But I just told Dylan the day before, he's been through this before. He's been in the game a long time. I mean, it's a big compliment to him that people have a lot of interest, and he understood that. But he also was very clear with him. Schulte, myself, Ruben. Our best chance is going to have is with Dylan Cease. We see him as a front of the rotation pitcher, a guy that can pitch a playoff game and win playoff games. And you want to be honest with guys and explain, hey, this is exactly where you stand. I think he knew that going into yesterday, and I think we're super excited with the team we have and with Dylan as a main part of the rotation.
AJ, I know we don't want to give the Dodgers too much credit for anything, but what they did last year against you guys and other teams in deploying their bullpen in the playoffs, is that at all a model for what you guys might be able to do if you get to October, in which you have games and empty the bullpen a little bit earlier than you'd expect, or even go with more bullpen games and only ask a couple of innings out of a starter, even a guy like Dylan Cease? Is that part of perhaps the plan?
I mean, I think the idea is, you win a championship, you want to be as complete a team as possible, and you've got to be able to win games a lot of different ways. And I think for us, you see Darvish's outing, the day before the deadline. Hopefully, Michael is on the mound here, King, in a few days as well, and over the course of the next couple of weeks, he's back at Petco. I think we have a chance to be a complete team, and a team that can beat you all kinds of different ways, from the offensive side, on the base pass. Talk about a team that from an outfield defense standpoint now, throwing arms, with Laureano, Merrill, and Toddy, probably three of the best in the game. A defensive minded catcher with Fermin. And then a pitching staff that I think Schulte, Ruben can deploy any way they want. So. And like you mentioned, one of those may be to go out and use a bullpen that's been tremendous so far in the first 100 games, gave us a lot of confidence to make these moves. Hopefully we have a chance to get early leads and then end the games, with a deep bullpen. So that was the idea behind the last couple of days and over the last few months. And, Schulte and his group have put us in a position to be motivated to make those moves for sure.
Talking to AJ Preller, Padres president of baseball ops, here on Ben and Woods this morning. And what a day yesterday for Padres fans. And I wanted to talk a little bit for a second about Freddy Fermin, because when I saw that deal go through, I went, oh no, I love Ryan Berger. What a dog that kid has been. Kansas City really getting a good one. You run immediately, you look up Freddy Fermin's stats, and you go, oh, this feels like an overpay from the Padres. That being said, I read a couple of threads, talked to some media in Kansas City, and I went, oh, okay, this guy seemingly is ready to take that next step. What did you guys see in Freddy Fermin? Again, a guy none of the pundits mentioned Freddy Fermin to the Padres.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that over the years, our scouting group, has continued to bring up as an underrated player. Got to just a winning, you talk about winning guys, glue guys in different sports, especially at that position. And he's a guy that repeatedly the Royals have not wanted to move or deal, but the Royals have built up some catching depth. So for us, we always take note of that where there's some depth in positional depth in different organizations. I remember we talked about with Cronenworth when the Rays had a glut of middle infielders at the time. So, we make sure we're aware of that. And, a guy that Schulte had mentioned over the years, hey, if we can get to Fermin, I'd love to do it. And over the last couple of days, again, it's a real price. Bergert and Stephen Kolek. It's hard to have young pitchers that look like they could be young starting pitchers in the big leagues. We felt like we had, and we talked about it in the system. We feel like we came into this trade deadline with a really strong system, top to bottom, and a lot of pitching depth. And I think for Bergert and Kolek, they're going to go on and get opportunity, and they're going to be good big league pitchers. But needing that catcher, and specifically Fermin, like you guys mentioned, when we're sitting there and digging and starting to get into it, not just like good reports, but like glowing reports about what he means to the Royals pitching staff, the organization, the pitchers. And we had a lot of debate about, some offensive-minded catchers that were on the board versus Fermin. And ultimately, we're super excited to line up on Freddy and glad to have him with us.
Honestly, based on the people I talked to in Kansas City, I'm surprised they let him go. They loved that guy, and I'm excited to see him as in a Padres uniform. Now, we hadn't heard about Fermin, but we did talk actually about Ramon Laureano and Ryan O'Hearn as guys, the Padres might target, but we always framed it as which one would you want to get? And AJ, you went and just got both of them. What was the thinking there in terms of being aggressive in adding not one bat, but two bats that you can add to your lineup?
Yeah, I mean, I think we knew with the composition of our team, like right and left-handed, helping in left field. I think we felt like we were looking at multiple bats. And I think for us to put Boston Bateman in the deal, we needed to get both players back. So we weren't going to do, Boston in any kind of rental situation. So from our standpoint, I think for us, that was kind of the big part of the deal was if we were going to talk about one of the better left-hand pitching prospects in our organization and in the game, we needed to get both pieces and kind of round out the offense. And we just love the fit in terms of, I mentioned Laureano can play, all three outfield, but definitely the two corner spots. And, is obviously having a great year. Two guys that are having all-star type seasons, O'Hearn, on the all-star team, and, a guy that gives you quality at bats, and you kind of pair with Sheets and Arise and others in left field, first base, and DH. We should have weapons on the bench now for Mike to deploy. You can rest, players or player every night and still have a very competitive lineup. And I think with Ramon too, you have an option year for next year. So it's hard to make these deals and have them for players that are with you for just the 1 year. But at least we have an opportunity to have some carry forward value. And, I think getting both offensive pieces was a big key for us to make that move.
I think that was the trade, AJ, that swayed the entire city. That was, oh my God, I can't believe it. What's he doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then that comes across and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is the totality of the trade deadline for Padres fans. I had to ask you this too, because, we don't even really like talking about it because none of us want it to happen. But, there's a pending doom kind of hanging over baseball with the lockout potentially coming after next season. Does that play into your go for it mentality? I mean, I think I know the answer because I've covered you for a while. You kind of always want to go for it. But when you look down the road and say, this is the time. I mean, we may not even be playing these games in a year and a half.
I mean, we're always aware of like what the landscape is for the next 3 years. Myself, John Seiler, Eric Rubner, we talked about it at different points in time in this deadline. But I think it's hard to predict what's going to happen with the labor situation and in the 27 season. So I think for us, it's more about like the organization landscape, the baseball landscape in terms of looking at our team this year. Having an opportunity to win a championship, which is the idea. We have a fan base that is as supportive as any in the game, and loves this team and comes out to Petco every night. And I think from our standpoint, it's never about we've talked about it. It's about like being consistent year after year after year. And we did the rebuild and the load up from 2016 to 19 with the idea that, every year in this decade, from Peter and Ron, they talked about we want to be competitive and we want to go into September, October with a team that the fans, feel like can get to the postseason and then win in the postseason. And there's been some very good moments. There's been, some moments where, we haven't played well down the stretch, or in 23 never really fired at all in that season. But every year we feel like we've had a team here that, can win. And, it's we didn't look at this the last few days as like, because of a labor situation, or really because of anything that, hey, this is this is 1 year. It's like, no, we liked, having Mason Miller for 4+ years. We liked having JP Sears for multiple years, having the flexibility with Laureano, getting O'Hearn to a team that's shown a lot, having Fermin for 4+ years. So, I think for us, Will Wagner, another young bat that we've been looking at for 6-8 months now. I think for us, they weren't moves just designed towards the next 3 months. They had, a team that's shown that we can win a championship this year, and then, have carry forward value. And that's really what we look at all the time.
Well, you know what's going to happen next, AJ. Everyone's happy today, but in a couple of weeks, you're going to go, yeah, can we get Ryan O'Hearn signed to an extension at this point? You know what? I won't make you get into that at this point. I'll just say.
Well, I never really listened to you guys, but on the way to basketball this morning, I listened to your opening. And
it was terrible.
And Dan, you want to talk about half empty? Ben went full empty on us to start the show. That put me in the slump, I think. So yeah.
How do you think we felt?
You shot poorly this morning.
We celebrate titles, not trade deadlines, AJ. We celebrate championships, not trade deadlines.
I'm so embarrassed.
Awful.
And I can't believe it. I really can't believe it, AJ. Again, I apologize. I was excited. But yeah, it was like your mom walking in on you
this morning. I knew it.
Yeah, you knew it was. Sorry about that. I thought you did a great job personally, and most of the fan base did as well. But apparently, it wasn't enough for old Ben Higgins.
Point. We're ready. We're ready to get on the field tonight. Go play. Let Shilty and the guys do their thing. But yeah, it was. Turned on the radio today, and I was ready to get a little bit fired up, get amped up. 5:45, 6 in the morning. Yeah, and then Ben set the tone. So see what happens.
Oh my God.
I'm speechless, honestly.
I am speechless as well.
You know what?
I'm speechless.
I am pretty high on actually all these moves, AJ. So
totally,
I will say good job. And
sounds like it.
And you already have legendary status, but you just cemented it on this show. I'm sure I'll never hear the end of this. I will never hear the end of this.
Well, we'll see. Again, we're ready to get back at it tonight. Appreciate you guys for having me. And
it's our pleasure. At least it's AJ. It's my pleasure and Paul's pleasure.
I remain skeptical as always. Thank you, AJ. As always, appreciate it,
buddy.
AJ Preller. There he is, general manager and president of baseball operations, and of course, tier 1 of the Ben and Woods program.